Recall Thanksgiving in 1950. Throughout the eastern U.S., households were slicing into turkeys, oblivious to the fact that overhead, the skies were brewing an unprecedented phenomenon. As evening arrived, the mercury plummeted sharply. Gales howled across mountain villages, and flakes started tumbling down, not lightly, but in massive accumulations. In mere days, whole settlements in Appalachia vanished under drifts. Barns caved in, streams swelled, electricity cut out, fields turned to ice in place. This went beyond a typical blizzard. It sparked a devastating sequence: blizzards, freezes, gusts, and deluges. It ranked among the 20th century's most devastating cold weather events, linked to over 160 fatalities. Destruction worth billions in modern terms, and a lasting shift in America's grasp of meteorology. This was the massive Appalachian blizzard of 1950. For survivors, the holiday lost its warmth forever. Hit subscribe to push us toward 500 followers by year's end. Your support means a lot. Thanks so much. November 23rd dawned like countless other festive mornings. Roughly 100 million folks east of the Mississippi stirred to everyday noises: pots banging in the kitchen, faint radio buzz amid seasonal tunes, kids shrieking as they dashed around dens, buzzing about desserts, relatives, and the stretch of free days coming up. Over in Pittsburgh, a mill hand, let's name him Thomas, wrapped his 3 little ones in layers and headed to his mom's place across the city. Streets were dry, clouds hung low and steady, typical for the tail end of fall. Up in Cleveland, a fresh married pair shared their inaugural Thanksgiving meal. They'd swiped plates from her folks, fussing over the setup until it shone. Little did they suspect they'd be housebound for days. In rural spots dotting Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania, steeples chimed. Groups clasped hands and offered thanks. Shops showed homemade banners for a joyful feast. The chill bit deeper than usual for the season. Yet everyone shrugged it off. Late autumn meant bracing weather. Folks tugged scarves closer and carried on. What escaped their notice, what no one could foresee, was the brewing force in the heavens. Quietly, out of sight, it gathered strength to cloak their lives in frost. One detail from 1950 that surprises many now: no orbiting cams, no radar scans, no digital forecast monitoring tempests nationwide. To predict the next day's conditions, you'd tune in and trust the forecaster's hunch based on patchy updates. Usually, it sufficed. Not here, though. The outlook missed the mark entirely. Meanwhile, aloft, the jet stream raced at double pace. The real peril stemmed from this: a massive high-pressure system loomed over Labrador like a dam clogging a road. Forming systems couldn't veer off. No path to the ocean. They'd circle endlessly, unleashing their full load on that doomed region. Those gathered for turkey and fixings remained clueless. They had to be. By mid-afternoon, with plates cleared and folks lounging for gridiron broadcasts on the airwaves, a soft drizzle sprinkled the Midwest. Harmless, merely a soft patter against panes. Dusk fell, and that Pittsburgh laborer Thomas, who'd shuttled his family earlier, confronted a decision that would linger in nightmares. Hunker down at Mom's or brave the route back before things soured. He opted to remain. It kept him breathing. The drizzle shifted to flakes in Chicago by 8 p.m. 4 hours later, temps hit 0. Beyond chilly, it froze motors solid and burst plumbing inside homes. Down in Steubenville, Ohio, revelers who dined amid 38-degree mildness awoke to 14, a 24-degree plunge by dawn, with flurries only beginning. This wasn't the picturesque powder of Yuletide greetings. It blasted at angles, whipped by blasts that invaded every crevice and sills. Vehicles disappeared fast. Heaps sealed entrances so some couldn't budge doors by sunrise. At his mom's in Pittsburgh, Thomas peered out as reality faded away. His ride, curbside below, got swallowed by swelling banks. Yesterday's paths? Gone. His own roof stayed out of reach for 3 days. Still, Thomas counted blessings. Roof over his head. Supplies on hand. Loved ones near. Not everyone fared as well. Robert Niels from Mundelein, Illinois, marked the storm's initial confirmed casualty. At 26, his vehicle spun out on black ice that Friday, flipping over. He'd aimed to reunite for the break. He fell short. And Robert Niels. That wouldn't mark the end of the tragedy, not even close. In the following 10 days, more than 160 lives would be lost. Some to the ferocious weather itself, others to the chaos it unleashed. In a tempest of this magnitude, the threats didn't come from a single source. They permeated every aspect of life. Yet what truly distinguished this event from any other in recent American history was its sprawling reach. Stretching across 1,000 miles of territory, icy precipitation pelted the highlands of central Pennsylvania for hours on end, encasing landscapes in layers of thick, unyielding frost. Down in the lowlands, waterways overflowed their confines, inundating settlements without a moment's notice. From Maryland's shores up to Maine, gale-strength blasts propelled massive tidal surges, reaching dozens of feet, straight into coastal neighborhoods. New England endured blasts exceeding 100 miles per hour. No community in Connecticut escaped the destruction. Snow blanketed 26 states, alongside ice deluges and gale-force gales, all spawned by one colossal weather front. And those in its trajectory got zero advance alert. Recall that fresh married pair in Cleveland, the one with the lone dishware? Come Friday evening, they'd witness 10,000 automobiles ditched on urban thoroughfares. 10,000. Principal arteries clogged with forsaken rides vanishing beneath accumulating powder. The streetcar network seized up entirely. Coaches became mired in heaps. One operator paused for riders to shove the vehicle forward, only for it to lurch away and abandon them to the elements. The Pennsylvania Turnpike, the nation's sole genuine expressway back then, shut down for the inaugural occasion in its existence. More than 700 folks ended up marooned in Irwin, Pennsylvania, a modest burg unprepared to function as an impromptu shelter zone. Lodging overflowed in mere hours. Worship halls flung wide their entrances next. Then taverns, followed by rural homesteads. Acquaintances from afar welcomed total unknowns, as options dwindled to nothing else. And it was right then that an extraordinary shift began unfolding, one that would etch this blizzard into the collective memory forever. Neighborhoods that barely knew one another come Wednesday were exchanging provisions and coverings by Saturday. Ranchers yoked teams of steeds to sleds, the sole conveyances navigating the barriers, and ferried essentials to shut-ins who'd been housebound for days. In Chester, West Virginia, a local harnessed his equine crew and devoted the full weekend ferrying goods to those immobilized. A dairy deliverer in Pittsburgh's outskirts ditched his van for a beast-pulled wagon and completed his full circuit, despite the tripled duration. Folks craved dairy. They yearned for loaves. They longed for proof that aid lingered nearby. Now consider Thomas, the mill hand stuck at his mom's place. Those 3 days saw him aiding locals with clearances, looking in on seniors dwelling in isolation, distributing fuel amid shortages. Years on, he confided to his boy that it left him utterly drained yet profoundly gratified. Saturday brought the blizzard's zenith, the occasion that shattered benchmarks, the one elders would recount till their final breath. Pittsburgh logged its all-time deepest accumulation. In Steubenville, measurements hit 44 inches, almost 4 feet deep. Drifts in Wheeling rose to second-story sills. The National Guard rolled out Sherman tanks onto Cleveland's avenues. Genuine armored units. Nothing else could navigate the terrain. In Berea, Ohio, one such behemoth dragged a municipal coach 8 miles to safety. The journey spanned 3 hours, yet relief efforts couldn't touch every soul. not swiftly enough. On November 29th, rescuers discovered 5 youngsters unsupervised in a Greene County, Pennsylvania, homestead. Supplies were nearly gone. Warmth was absent. Their parent had been hemmed in a village 20 miles distant since the onslaught started. She'd battled to reunite with them for days. The subsequent day in Hawkins County, Ohio, a search team uncovered a household of 9 crammed in a dilapidated dwelling a half-mile from the closest drivable path. Their remaining sustenance? Just half a container of preserves. These groups lacked means to summon assistance. No lines, no routes. They endured in hope, beseeching fate for discovery. Then came the Fisher brothers, a tale I must share. Johnny was merely 4. His sibling Frel, 11. They hailed from Rollsburg, West Virginia, a tight-knit hamlet where familiarity bound all and the waterway bisected the core. On December 3rd, a full 10 days into the ordeal, Johnny tumbled from a span into the West Fork River. The current, bloated by thawing white, surged with icy peril. Frel plunged right behind his kin without pause. Neither surfaced again. They claimed the ultimate toll from the epic Appalachian gale, a toddler's misstep, an older boy's devotion too fierce to stand idle. Their narrative's deeper resonance awaits. But first grasp the catastrophe's immense scale and the reason it likely skipped your textbooks. This front didn't merely smother Appalachia in white. Deeper in central Pennsylvania, an arguably graver peril brewed. Icy downpours hammered the peaks for hours on end. Ice storms battered areas near Altoona and Clearfield. Not the fluffy snow kind, but sheets of rain that turned solid the moment they hit anything. Branches, wires, pavement, rooftops. Even a single inch of that stuff spells disaster. Yet sections of central Pennsylvania ended up with 4 inches coating everything. Snorts. The sheer mass of it cracked ancient trees, snapping them like twigs from the 1800s. The entire network of high-tension power lines in the area collapsed. Not a one stayed up. Urban spots that relied totally on electric grids plunged into blackness. Altoona lost its lights. Clearfield followed suit. Thousands upon thousands of folks reverted to flickering candles and lanterns, heating meals on wood fires, scooping up snow to melt for hydration. It felt as if the last century had vanished in a flash. Crews from utility companies poured in from every corner of Pennsylvania. So many arrived that they bunked in train carriages and grabbed plates from Shriners, whipping up more than 6,000 warm suppers across 9 days. Those repair teams battled brutal odds. Fix a cable, and bam! Another branch heavy with frost would crash down and wreck it anew. Out of sheer frustration, they experimented with a bold move, sparking the lines on purpose to produce warmth and thaw the buildup. Surprisingly, it did the trick. Still, some neighborhoods in Altoona waited until December 14th, 3 full weeks past Thanksgiving, for the juice to return. Other spots didn't see full recovery until the holidays wrapped up. At the same time, down in central Pennsylvania's lowlands, waterways swelled dangerously. Tyrone's roads drowned under 5 feet of flood. Lock Haven submerged completely. The west branch of the Susquehanna surged 14 feet higher in a mere 12 hours at its peak. Villages got cleared out via small boats. Around 1,000 residents hunkered down for the weekend in Tyrone's high school gym, right alongside the stranded Penn State marching band, caught en route from a gridiron matchup. Out on the Atlantic side, massive waves reshaped the beaches. In New Jersey, a 25-foot breaker ripped loose a 200-foot chunk of the Long Branch Promenade, hurling it straight into onlookers who'd come to gawk at the chaos. 2 perished on impact. Over in Margate Beach, 36 out of 38 homes got swept clean off the map. Whole neighborhoods evaporated. The tally of destruction soared. Pittsburgh alone tallied $500,000 in debris removal. Youngstown hit $60,000. Columbus reached 100,000. Those figures piled into widespread ruin and claims that insurance rarely covered. Most folks lacked solid protection. Full coverage home policies were brand new, introduced just 2 months prior. Hardly anyone had signed up. A collapsed roof from heavy snow. If fire was all you insured against, tough luck, no payout. Once the clouds parted and cleanup crews got to work, the nation grappled with a tough realization. Why hadn't anyone anticipated this? Forecasters had sifted through their info, spotty updates from vessels and outposts, and figured on a mild blow that would veer offshore, as gales typically do. They missed the mark. It wasn't incompetence. They lacked the gear to spot the brewing monster. No orbiting eyes, no scanning tech, no digital crunchers, just hunches and crossed fingers. The aftermath demanded reform. In Princeton, New Jersey, a pair of researchers spotted a silver lining in the wreckage. Jule Charney had crafted formulas that, in theory, could forecast tempest patterns, but crunching them manually was a nightmare. He required a machine. ENIAC, the pioneering electronic brain, debuted in 1945. It occupied a whole building and zipped through math in 30 seconds that had dragged humans for 20 hours. Charney teamed up with John von Neumann to plug great Appalachian storm details into ENIAC. They crunched the models. They cross-checked outputs against the real events. Spot on. If the system nailed this one retrospectively, they figured, it could warn of tomorrow's threats ahead of time. That insight flipped the script. By 1952, beefier machines were honing prediction algorithms using the 50 storm as a test case. Key breakthroughs in weather prediction for decades afterwards stemmed from that analysis, from the hard truths of November 1950. These days, pulling up a forecast on your device, spotting a cyclone alert with days' notice, or hearing pros urge you indoors before a nor'easter slams, you owe it to efforts sparked amid the ruins of Thanksgiving 1950. The Tempest legacy rippled further. Structures got tougher mandates. Crisis protocols sprang up. How folks in the U.S. viewed cold snaps, readiness, and pulling together all evolved. Yet for survivors of that harrowing stretch, the deepest shifts were intimate, not systemic. Take Thomas, the steel mill hand who hunkered at his mom's place and aided his neighbor through the ordeal. He carried those lessons forever. Clear's throat. From then on, he stocked his shelves with surplus grub, his shelves with spare coverings. He'd discovered how swiftly the world could shift, and the sole certainty lay in preparing to support those nearby. The couple from Cleveland who had just tied the knot marked their golden jubilee back in 2000. Each Thanksgiving, they recounted their inaugural one, the rented fine china, the blanket of white enveloping everything, the time they were confined to their home, uncovering intimate details about one another that fate wouldn't have revealed otherwise. Their grandkids matured listening to that tale, grasping how tempests might draw folks nearer. Then there were the Pfizer siblings, Johnny and Frell, whose account rippled across West Virginia and farther afield. A toddler who tumbled, a preteen who leaped on instinct. Folks labeled it a heartbreak, which it surely was, yet some discerned more. A child whose devotion to his kin overshadowed all else. The icy depths, the daunting chances, the terror, none of it counted. In Roanoke, locals still recall their names. November 1950 slipped into the past. The frost thawed, electricity returned, paths opened up, daily life picked up its familiar pace. Yet speak to survivors from that era. They'll describe the relentless roar of gales persisting for days. They'll evoke the eerie hush that followed once the gale subsided and you ventured out to a landscape utterly altered. They'll speak of the chill that seeped into your marrow and lingered for weeks. And they'll share tales of neighbors arriving with tools to dig out, unknown folks dividing their final bit of bread, ranchers harnessing steeds since vehicles were stalled, broadcasters holding the line for 5 unbroken days, ensuring no one felt isolated. Decades on, 75 years now, the massive Appalachian blizzard has dimmed in collective recall. Classrooms skip it. Standard U.S. textbooks overlook it. But for eyewitnesses, their offspring, and descendants raised on those Thanksgiving narratives, it reshaped perspectives. It revealed the brittleness hidden beneath modern facades. It highlighted the resilience of everyday individuals amid collapse. And it etched indelibly the truth that life's essentials can't be purchased, constructed, or scheduled. They're found in those who arrive when whiteness engulfs the horizon. In a quiet West Virginia hamlet by a waterway that chills come winter, a modest span arches over it. Nothing remarkable, merely cement and metal, akin to countless others nationwide. But residents there hold the memory of events on that crossing in December 1950. They recall Johnny and Frel. They remember the blizzard that entombed their forebears' existence. And occasionally, as temps drop and meteorologists signal approaching fronts, they gaze through panes at descending flakes and reflect. If you or your kin endured the epic Appalachian gale, drop your experiences in the comments.